So I want to welcome everybody to today's VANTEC meeting. It's a special spotlight on life sciences and health tech. And we've got some great people, very knowledgeable experts who will talk about this, this topic. There's a lot going on in this industry sector and a lot going on in the investing space, given the change in the economic climate. So, you'll hear all about that from our expert panelists. And speaking of whom, this is who they are. We've got Wendy, Hurlburt, Jason Robertson, Geof, Auchinleck, and Anthony Fejes. Now, I'm going to hand over the next hour to the very capable hands of Wendy Hurlburt. She is the president and CEO of LifeSciences BC. Now, LifeSciences BC has been around for a few decades now. It's very uniquely positioned where it knits together the best minds of academia, research, and industry, and working collaboratively so that it really strengthens the whole life science, health tech space. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Wendy. Wendy, you're on.
Thank you. Can you see me? Yep. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I couldn't tell from the screen. Thanks very much. I'm thrilled to be here again for VANTEC's focused event on life sciences. And so it's great to be here and great to be here with my fellow panelists who have a lot of insight and expertise in this area. So we hope you'll enjoy this next hour. And I should say, we're going to be able to answer questions. So if you do have some questions, if you could put them in the chat, and I will keep my eyes open for that as we carry on. As we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining this event from within the ancestral, traditional, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, and also would like to acknowledge that others are joining us from across British Columbia and possibly Canada from other gorgeous and unceded territories. I was asked to, in previous years, I've given an overview of the life sciences sector, some of the economic stats, and I was asked this year to talk a little bit about Life Sciences BC and how we support the ecosystem, specifically as it relates to SMEs and some of the activities that we do for that. So Life Sciences BC, for those that do not know, is a not-for-profit, non-governmental industry association that supports and represents the life sciences community in BC through numerous initiatives at the local, national, and international level. We nurture economic development in the province through leadership, facilitation of investment and partnering, advocacy, and then promotion of the sector. So as you probably know, we have our hands in a lot of different pots, and we really work tirelessly every day on behalf of our members to both promote the ecosystem broadly, but also try and advance our members at whatever stage they are at in their company journey. And with that, a couple of things that we've been up to lately. For those of you in the biotech sector, the International Bio Conference is in 2 weeks, I think. And so we are leading a delegation of 25 to 30 companies at Bio. Next week, we have a preview of those companies where I think about 2/3 of the ones that are coming will be presenting in advance of Bio. And the audience is intended, while anybody is able to attend, it really is around trying to get a preview of the BC innovation and the specific companies that are going to be at Bio, so that they can then get ahead of setting up meetings, whether it be about investing, garnering investment, business development deals, licensing, royalties, partnerships, etc. So we have that, and Minister Chow from the BC government will be opening it to talk about BC being open for business from a trade and investment perspective. At Bio, we have a BC Showcase networking event on the Monday evening. If you are at Bio, please let us know. And if you are a company at Bio that we don't know that you're going, please let us know, because we've created a whole program around this, including a booklet that is online with a QR code where the BC companies are profiled. So we are trying desperately to capture everyone that's there. In addition to the Bio conference, we are intending to attend the AdvaMed conference, the MedTech conference in the fall, and we'll lead a similar delegation. So if you're interested in being a part of that, let us know. The nice thing for our members is that even if they're not present, they're always with us, because we promote all of our members and all of the BC ecosystem when we're at these conferences. So we often say our members travel in our suitcase with us, because we have a robust membership directory that we can direct people's attention to. We also have a number of initiatives as it relates to SMEs and trying to really create that connection between investors and partners and our SMEs. So we started a couple of years ago an investor readiness program, which Jason will talk a little bit about because he's a mentor. We matched 10 companies, and actually Anthony was one of our companies. So we matched 10 companies with mentors over essentially a 6-month program. And it culminates with helping the companies figure out their proposition, what is their offering. It's all over the map. We have different educational sessions throughout the 6 months, including peer-to-peer workshops, which seem to have been quite positively received, and culminates in what we refer to as a graduation, but it's essentially an investor conference where we invite a number of investors to come and listen to the 10 companies pitch. At the end of it, a little nerve-wracking maybe for the companies, but Anthony, you can tell us how it felt. They actually get a report card on their pitch, what they did well, and what are some of the areas of opportunities for them as they continue to look ahead. We also run a conference that was probably more better known, Invest in BC. It's in the fall every year. And it is where we run a 2-day conference of approximately 30 to 35 companies across the whole life sciences space that pitch to what has become, since COVID commenced, a very internationally focused conference. I think it has become the largest early stage life sciences investor conference in Canada. Last year we had 350 attendees, of which they were from 100 different countries. 32 different countries, 100 people that identified as investors, and 85 that identified as government officials, which are essentially trade commissioners, whether they be Canadian trade commissioners in region in other areas or other countries' trade commissioners. Last year, we had representatives from every continent around the world, with the exception of Antarctica. So we have a running joke about trying to get someone or a penguin from Antarctica to attend this year, but we'll see how that goes. In addition to those, we've run a number of different events, webinars, roundtables that are really focused on those things that are important to the sector, whether they be issues that we're trying to address or enablers that we're trying to advance. So we have an event called Career Connect Day in January. Again, we did it virtually this year. The focus is around profiling careers in life sciences, trying to get companies in front of prospective employees, get prospective employees in front of companies, and profile the breadth of careers that exist in life sciences, trying to bridge that business and science gap that sometimes exists in our sector. We believe it's become the largest life sciences career-focused event because we had 875 registrants from, again, around the world that are all interested in coming and working in BC or working for BC-based companies. In addition to that, we have our Access to Innovation Conference, which is largely policy, latest scientific discovery, issue-focused, and then numerous events throughout the year where we basically bring the community together and have addressed topics of interest. We've done a deep dive into the radiopharmaceutical space. We've talked about clinical trials and reform, and the list is very broad. So that's us in a nutshell. In addition, we work very closely with the government on life sciences related initiatives. and advocate for things to happen on behalf of the sector. Like a couple of years ago, we released the first economic report with the government on what the life sciences sector was in British Columbia. So that's us in a nutshell. We exist on behalf of our members and because of our members. So we really appreciate everybody that does join us, and we're always, welcoming new members. So if you're interested, let us know. And with that rapid fire, Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you to maybe give your perspective as both being an IRP, but also being part of the IRP program, but also you have an interesting lens on what's happening in the life sciences sector right now from an investment perspective.
No, thanks, Wendy. I really appreciate that. So I think for the benefit of those on the call who may not know, just briefly, Nimbus is the leader in early stage health technology investments in Canada, and I have the immense privilege of leading our investment team. With that privilege comes the pleasure of having been a mentor now for 2 years with the IRP program. And I think, for those, most of you, I think here are very well versed on what a strong and supportive early stage, innovation ecosystem that we have here. And I think, IRP plays a part. I think there's a number of different, constituents and players that are all supportive in that space. But for me, it's really interesting to see, I do, mentor at UBC as well as entrepreneurship at UBC, as well as at Creative Destruction Labs. And so, IRP, I think, fills a really interesting niche and spot for innovative life sciences companies where, oftentimes, someone, dare I say, someone like Anthony or another innovator, may have a discovery or an idea that comes out from some of their research in academia and whatnot, and has decided that they want to maybe look to see if that's a commercializable idea and sort of in a sort of maybe a slightly backwards fashion, sort of match up a solution and a technology with a particular problem, which is its own sort of unique skill set. And so, UBC does a great job of sort of helping, early stage innovators understand what that challenge is, for instance. But once, they sort of have decided that they want to pursue their entrepreneurial journey and capitalize on this innovation and try to commercialize it, then comes a challenge that we, I think, are all here to support, which is typically the investing, the financing, of those innovations. And so, I think the challenge with some of those programs is you spend a lot of time trying to understand what your business is. Once you've progressed and you've started maybe bringing on a small team and, you've taken care of your IP and some of these other areas, then the challenge becomes, how do I present my company to the world? And I think, one of the misconceptions that early innovators and entrepreneurs often have, I think, is that process is either quick or it's linear. And it really isn't. And so I think the benefit of something like IRP, where it sort of has this 6-month breadth with a lot of education and a lot of mentor support, is building a story, a pitch deck, a presentation, a narrative around what your venture is trying to accomplish and achieve takes time, and you need to be able to soundboard it and test it and see how it resonates and make tweaks and make changes, and ideally do that in a safe space with people who understand and have experience in what good presentations and good stories sound like, and can provide constructive feedback, so that you're not necessarily having to game day test it when you are pitching your first suite of investors, right? And so I think it's done a tremendous job. And so, my hat tip to, Wendy and the team for putting the program together. And I think filling what is a very important spot in that value chain. I think that brings to your second point, Wendy. We're at a very interesting time, and I think a lot of the individuals on this webinar in this session, are feeling that there's a lot of tumultuousness going on in the public markets. I think we all intuitively understand that what happens in those public markets affects the private markets and the early stage innovation ecosystem. And so making sure that whether it's IRP or otherwise, we're spending time with those early stage innovators to help them understand, because oftentimes they are domain experts in whatever it is that they are doing. They're not necessarily financial experts. They're not business building experts necessarily. And so the complexities of where we find ourselves in the economic cycle right now is a bit unknown and a bit foreign to them. So I think, whether at IRP or otherwise, I think it's a really interesting time that we find ourselves in. And so to your point, Wendy, we are spending a lot of time right now with our companies. And I think the greatest saying I've heard recently that I like to sort of steal and pair it out is much of what happened during the start of the COVID crisis was a dress rehearsal for, I think, where we're going to find ourselves in today. I think a lot of the advice and guidance and concern and apprehension that happened at the start of COVID, when sort of markets crashed and things tumbled and there was a lot of uncertainty around where the future would go, I think we were all, I think it's fair to say, surprised by the robustness of certainly the public markets and policy response from governments to sort of prop up markets. But I think now there's definitely the feeling amongst certainly the institutional investors that this time is different and that it will be a protracted sort of longer period. So as an innovator, what does that mean to you? How do you think about ensuring that you are being mindful of your milestones that you want to achieve, the cost and the capital and expense required to get there? And then on the investor side, for the angels, how do you think about supporting your portfolio companies and those that you choose to invest in? And given some of the frostiness over the last couple of years, how do you make sure that the things that you participate in are going to continue to benefit you on a return spectrum that is meet your expectations?
Thanks, Jason. I'm going to ask you to unpack that just a bit more with a specific question, but then Anthony, I'm going to turn to you because as the SME in the room that was recently raising capital, you probably have a bit of a perspective. And so, Jason, the question I want to ask you to unpack a little bit is, the last couple of years, as you said, have been a little bit unique. And, I hesitate to use the word boom, but let's just say that. And so, some people I've heard say, we always used to talk about capital and capital is not a problem anymore. And now talent is what we really need to focus on. And I think that statement of capital may not be a problem really depends on where you sit in this ecosystem right now. So could you unpack that a little bit about how the last few years have unfolded? Because I think some people are feeling we're in good shape and others are feeling we've come to a grinding halt somehow.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful question, Wendy. So I'll try to expound a little bit on it. I think there's a couple of facets that I want to touch on, and I think a couple of the other panelists will have some good insights here as well. One of the things that I've been mindful of in my discourse with peers and other sort of constituents within our Canadian ecosystem is I think there's a bit of a and noting the Bank of Canada's rate hike today, I think there's a bit of a lagging awareness around what is happening right now in the U.S. innovative tech space, primarily around, while there aren't necessarily the big splashy, front page news articles yet, the discussions at the board levels around, some of the highest flying tech startups that we all know of, household names, is very much ones around working through strategic plans around, massive OpEx reduction, right? Not necessarily, we've heard some early, we've seen some early signs of some of those, whether it's Netflix and others, but really setting the stage for saying, look, to your point, Wendy, capital is not free anymore. It is not necessarily as easy to get as it historically was, though I look at Geof and Anthony, and I don't think either one of them would ever say that it's easy. It's never easy, but certainly maybe not as easy. And moving forward, it's certainly going to be more difficult, regardless of the challenges historically. And so I think there's certainly that element to it, and so I think we run the risk as Canadian leaders within the innovation space that if we're not being equally thoughtful around how do we maintain and manage our companies and our OpEx and our burn effectively, and set reasonable goals and expectations to where we need to get to, we run the risk of finding ourselves left out, and the hurdles that these innovators are going to need to achieve to be funded in the future are just going to be much more difficult to obtain. I think the other thing that I want to be mindful of, and again, I think it's a good point that we talked about, is I think a lot of the folks here will recognize that the statistics around how much funding has come into venture capital, especially in the last year, unprecedented new funds, unprecedented amount of capital. But what we're hearing, amongst our peers, is that the limited partners that fund those VCs, right? Typically big institutions, fund-to-fund managers, billions of assets under management, because they are tied a lot of their investments to the public markets, have seen these massive markdowns in their investments in the public markets. And consequently, they're all sort of balanced in terms of their asset allocations. And consequently, they're telling their VC fund managers, do not call capital. And so you have this disconnect where, you're looking on paper and it's like, hey, there's all this funding, there's all this capital available to me, there's all these VCs with all this money. But those VCs actually don't have any money. They have commitments, but they can't call those commitments from their LPs right now. And so, it is something that at least hopefully won't progress. I mean, obviously that capital has been committed. At some point, those fund managers will be able to call that capital, and more will come back into VC. But at least in the foreseeable future, it's going to be very challenging. And I suspect that when we get the numbers coming in from Q2, you're going to see a plummeting of deals having been done compared to Q1, especially. So definitely, it's an interesting time. I think there is light, but I think in the immediacy, it is very challenging, and the numbers from last year don't give credit to what's happening on the ground.
Thank you, Jason. That's great perspective. And just so that we don't, get into a place of a lot of doom and gloom, I'm going to ask Anthony to talk about his recent experiences in raising capital and as a SME out there.
Yeah, I'm certainly not an expert at it, but I'm very happy to say that we have basically completed our funding round. One of our board members is somewhere in the audience, and I haven't even told him yet, but we received all of our closing book documents today. So we're very happy that we're on track. And from that perspective, I guess we timed it well, finishing last month. I have recently seen some of the doom and gloom show up with stuff like the Y Combinator letter that went out that said, everybody should hunker down and not be looking for a lot of capital if you don't need to. But I think we're in a good position, and we have enough to get us through to the end of next year, which should be long past our MVP. So from that perspective, I think we're in good shape. I don't really know. I guess I can't really say too much about where things are going now. It's just the word is slowly getting out that it's going to be harder. But as you pointed out, Wendy, it's really hard to say that it was easy before. I don't think fundraising is ever really easy. But the IRP was actually a great experience, and we sort of we're fortunate. We were riding on the crest every time there was another seminar on a topic. It was like perfectly timed for us, or maybe like 2 days late, perhaps sometimes. I think we had our term sheet signed, and then like 2 weeks later, we did the session on how to sign a term sheet. So, not everything worked out perfectly in terms of timing, but the community was fantastic, and everything came together really well for us. So at this point, we're just very fortunate to be in the right position at the right time, which I guess is kind of the surprise, because starting a company in the pandemic fully remotely, nobody would have said that's the best time, but you never know how fortune's going to turn out.
I hope in the term sheet education session, you debunked any myths that people were presenting, considering you had real life recent experience. So Geof, I thought I'd turn to you. You wear so many hats in this sector. So in light of this position of where we are, which of course is not all doom and gloom, what does that mean to investors, angel investors, other investors, as to what they should be looking at as they're investing? And really what I'm talking about is this horizon of short, mid, long term, where a lot of the innovation in the life sciences sector is long haul innovation, so to speak.
Yeah, so you probably saw from my bio and what Wendy said, I have a short attention span. I've never figured out what I want to do when I grow up. And that's why I bounced around so many different things. So having been in the roughly medical device space now for 40 years, I've seen markets go up, down, sideways, in, out, explode, crash, do everything else. And quite frankly, it's really never been that big a deal for the companies I've been involved with in fundraising. Sometimes it takes a little longer, sometimes it's a little harder, but it's always hard to add to what Anthony said. Someday I'm going to find something that's easy to raise money for. I haven't found it yet. I think in a lot of ways, anything to do with healthcare is a little bit immune to the usual vagaries of the marketplace. We're not talking typically about what's the word, disposable income, optional purchases. We're talking about stuff that people really, really need. And people get sick. I mean, and when you need healthcare, you need a medical device, when you need a new drug, you will pay for it. It doesn't matter what the public markets are doing at any particular time. So in that sense, I think a lot of healthcare investments are a little bit less subject, not entirely not subject, but less subject to the ups and downs of the marketplace. There is, we're entering a period clearly where I think startups in particular have to be a little bit careful. One of the things that I've seen over the last couple of years is I saw a lot of organizations where their valuation got way ahead, way ahead of the curve. They raised a lot of money on what seemed to be a rather eyebrow-raising valuation. I think they might be in trouble in the coming years if they need more money, because they're going to have to suffer a serious down round or something like that. But just in one of the breakout groups, I had a brief conversation with Geof Hansen, who's always the voice of reason and calm. And he pointed out that, the funds are still going to be deployed. They're going to be deployed to quality investments. Perhaps things will take a little bit longer. There'll be more questions asked. So stretch out your funds a bit longer, bootstrap a little bit longer, just expect things to take more time. Then the money will still be deployed. It's not going to go away. It's due respect to Jason's better understanding of what's actually going on in some of the funds, but there is still money being deployed and will be deployed, and it will be seeking quality investments that have a market independent likelihood of return, which to me means healthcare as being one of the target areas. So if you can bootstrap, if you can stretch things out a little bit longer, probably good advice, but there's probably still money out there if you have a good idea and a chance to go out. And I'll end with just never forget what Guy Kawasaki says: sales fixes everything. If you can get to the point where you have some revenue, then everything changes. Everything changes quite quickly. And I know that's hard for drug discovery, but for medical devices, just find a way to get your minimally viable product in the market and get some revenue coming in to prove you're in the right place, and things will become quite a bit easier.
Maybe I can just riff on Geof for a half second, and just sort of add, sorry, Wendy, just quickly, that I think Geof makes a really interesting perspective. And I think that's the benefit of this community here with life sciences, especially with like Anthony and others on the primarily the drug development side, that tends to not necessarily be as influenced by the macroeconomic perspective. I think those investors are constantly investing, throughout the cycles. And in fact, I think the opportunity for all investors, not just, those in life sciences, is that, as we see perhaps, what some, forecast or foreshadow is sort of, perhaps, changes around talent and perhaps, layoffs and whatnot, is the opportunity for young innovative companies to pick up much needed talent that has been traditionally difficult and expensive to get. And so I think that is the opportunity, in front of us. And I think the other area that Geof really, I want to double click on for everyone's benefit is health remains one of the last, sort of, I don't want to say it's not blue ocean, but sort of remains one of the last unsolved pieces of the innovation, of innovation, where there's just so many challenges that need to be solved in health. I mean, not that there aren't in business, building use cases, but, there's so much innovation in Zoom and Slack and all these sort of things. We don't have that commensurate innovation yet having happened in health. And so I think when you look at where health, or investment dollars in general are going, it's to health, because there's still so many problems that need to be solved.
I think that's a great point and was going to lead me to another question, which is around, so at a minimum, there's going to be increased competition for capital. To your point, the capital will continue to flow. Maybe you stretch it longer. Let's maybe turn to the investor side. So I may go back to you, Geof, and then is around, so if you're sitting as an investor knowing all of this, knowing what your companies are being told, where there's so much, to Jason's point, there's so much innovation in this space and a lot of really good innovation, some that has shorter term potential sales, which are of course are your friends' sales, and some which are longer. Where would you look right now to make your investments?
Well, yeah, so now you're asking me to take off my hat and put on my investor.
Yeah, you're putting on your other hat. This is the point.
So,
you have all these hats.
You know, it always comes back to quality, and you know, investors are always looking for quality, of course, but if I was to choose what I would invest at in my space, which is medical devices, I would be looking for companies that have the shortest route to getting those first sales and getting revenue to prove their market. So if it, you know, companies that are very early stage and saying we've got a lot of lab work and, you know, 2 or 3 years from now, we may know whether this is going to actually work, might be less inclined to go after. My apologies to any companies pitching today that have a 5-year, you know, plan, but if I was investing personally, I'd be looking for ones where I say I can see how you can get that into the hands of customers, into the hands of patients in a few years' time. So that shorter cycle is one of the things I look for. Mm-hmm. That said, that's always, you know, adjusted by the size of the opportunity and how exciting the technology is and what an impact it's going to have. So it's not a hard and fast rule if I want a quick return. It's going to be balanced by how big a deal is this. So.
And it's quite different in the space that you're operating in, Anthony, because you wouldn't be able to, Geof isn't the person you're calling. What's the feedback you were getting from investors as you were talking to them and them looking at, you know, your innovation pathway?
Yeah, actually, this is the one case in which I don't think I can argue with Geof at all. We've also heard the same thing. People are really interested in what we're doing because we do also have a short runway. And a lot of people have been saying, like, all these companies that have a 20-year timeline to get to the market, they have to go through the FDA trials and all that. I mean, that's a really difficult path for investors because there's just so much capital involved in many rounds, and it's going to take a long time to get there. Mm-hmm. And for our plan, we explicitly set out to come up with a way of getting ourselves to market faster, hopefully getting revenue for us even the next 6 months. We expect to start being able to get ourselves to market. So I totally agree that short timeline is a big deal. But I do have one thing I wanted to add, and I think this goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about earlier, about capital being sort of under increased competition. And I guess my concern is that we're also at the same time going to see valuations drop a little bit, particularly if there's a lot less money sloshing around. In California, for instance, when the money is sloshing, the valuations go way up. And that actually means that companies can get a little bit more funds in the door, and that helps them build longer runways. With tightening valuations, that means that companies are going to have lower valuations and lower amounts of money coming in. And that means that this is actually going to be a more difficult time to, I guess, get Canadian companies up and running. It'll be a little bit easier in the States as before. Money may not be sloshing, but there'll be at least larger valuations and longer runways. And as Canadians, I think we have to be aware of that. The shorter valuations also give us shorter runways. Mm-hmm. So we need to be aware of that.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I think, you know, Jason, I'd like you to now comment a little bit on, as you look around the BC and, you know, specifically, I guess, Vancouver environment, we have a number of innovators that actually almost do fit that bill. I mean, you know, nothing's guaranteed, but where you see some of the health tech innovation, and some would say we get de-risked in some of this health technology strength that we really have in Vancouver.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's an interesting, you know, insight, Wendy. You know, when we look at, I think really the theme of this meeting today in terms of the convergence is tech. I think we've been advocates from day one of our founding that the BC ecosystem in particular is uniquely situated at this sort of intersection between traditional life sciences and really interesting tech and deep tech, type innovations, whether it's, stuff like D-Wave and lots of the, quantum stuff. But when you sort of take that ecosystem, it just seems obvious that it's going to interact and overlap, and the concentric, sort of circles and Venn diagrams are going to be there. And so you're going to end up with incredible things like HTuO and like Claris and others. That are sort of taking, insights from the traditional tech ecosystem, using the best of tech and ML and AI, and sort of leveraging that into traditionally health-centric problems that need to get solved. And so I think we're sort of at that nascent stage. But you look at someone like HTuO, where you're fundamentally coming at a problem and saying, look, the sort of software or algorithms or approaches, computational approaches that we've typically taken for drug discovery, all stem from algorithms that were developed decades ago. They weren't optimized for current hardware capabilities. And so how do we think about redesigning those calculations and computations for what we carry around in our pockets, which is supercomputers effectively. So I think we see a lot of that, and so I think whether it's in computational drug discovery like HTuO, whether it's in medical imaging, AI images and stuff like that, I think there's a lot of really interesting innovation going on. And I suspect that as we have more anchor companies, both on the traditional life sciences side, like AbCellera, of course, and Zymeworks and others, which also have their own, computational underpinnings, that we're going to see a really interesting breadth, I think, of new innovators and new startup companies that I think we should all be really excited about.
And I think that is one of the very uniquenesses of the life sciences sector. As you say, this convergence of tech. We've had a strong tech sector. I often say that's also why we have a strong digital health sector, because of our strength in the gaming industry for years. And uniquely, we seem to have always, been, or at least are very strong right now in bringing cross-disciplinary science together. So what I mean by that is chemistry meets physics, or biology meets mechanical engineering. And so with that, and with our ecosystem that is uniquely sized, that we can all be, meet each other and share that knowledge. We have a wonderful culture in the life sciences sector in British Columbia about supporting each other, sharing information with each other. That does, outside of the headwinds that Jason is talking about, and I stand corrected. Jason says, Anthony, that you should call Geof. So, so call Geof. But outside of that, maybe Geof, you can comment on it using one of your other broader hats of, when you look at BC, how is the BC and Vancouver ecosystem well positioned to weather what we've described?
Well, whenever I turn over a rock in BC, I find some absolutely phenomenal technology being developed and the companies doing amazing things. And 30 years ago, I was Science Council of BC, for anyone who remembers that. And these applications would come in from local companies where you're going like, I had no idea that a local company was leading the world in this and this and this. And that has grown and grown and grown over the years, to the point where it just seems like a weekly thing now here about somebody doing something absolutely amazing. A lot of it being driven by the strength of our two main universities and BCIT in Vancouver area. Obviously across the rest of the province, there's some great institutions as well. But the level of leading technology that's coming out of the labs in our universities is astounding. Just blows my mind on a regular basis. And The other thing that I'll jump on what you said is this idea that the cross-disciplinary projects are the ones that I've always found most fascinating. As you say, you know, a physicist finds a biologist, finds a medical doctor, and suddenly something really incredible comes out. And to me, that's where where the really exciting stuff is coming from, is where we crossbreed, across different disciplines. And that's always been true, but is even more true now. And those opportunities are really important, and I'm glad to see they're being encouraged by various organizations here. Before we move on, though, I just want to back up to something that Anthony was talking about. Anthony, you mentioned valuations. Being able to get a higher valuation when the markets are frothy, and that starting to set my teeth on edge, because that's that dangerous thing. And it's I'm among the crowd for many years who've always whined and complained about how valuations for companies in Vancouver, we get a way higher valuation if we're in the valley, for the same thing. And now we're going to enter a phase where we're going to say, oh, thank goodness we didn't get ourselves overvalued during that frothy period where people were throwing money all over the place. A methodical, steady growth in your value is much better than having a massive spike in it and then having to have a massive down round and upset all your early investors and the like. Had to do that. Doesn't, it's no fun at all. Don't want to do it again. Where we had to recapitalize a company, and that's an awful thing and really painful for all the investors. I would much prefer not to use the overinflation of the market as an excuse to drive the valuation up beyond where it should be for the stage that we are at and the depth you're at. Keep investing at an appropriate stage so that you have room to move up the ramp rather than getting convinced to drive it up too fast. And yeah, it looks very attractive. And somebody says, well, I'm going to, give you some huge valuation here. Wow, I'm doing so great. Well, 2 years later, you may find that was a serious mistake. And I've seen that happen, and it's not pleasant. So
I'm just going to riff on you, Geof, if I can, which I 150% agree with you. And I think that's, I look at the Canadian and the BC ecosystem in particular, and I think there are numerous examples where I hope in retrospect, people will look favorably on having not gotten over their skis on valuation and having to come to terms with that. That said, I do want to reinforce, I think, Anthony, I share your concern, which is that, one of the things we've seen, across the portfolio is and I think even regardless of the uncertainty ahead of us, it will likely persist and continue in some measured way, is the significant inflation of salaries, right? And so when we're talking about convergence of technologies and convergence of solutions into new innovations, right, that means that we are going to be requiring talent from a historically and continually expensive area vis-a-vis tech, right? And so if you need a data scientist for your particular, venture, that is a $200,000 a year plus probably role. And so, we can't fund, ecosystem participants or startups, to the perhaps same degree that we have historically and expect similar results. And so I think, Anthony does have a point that there has to be some fluidity in the conversation between investors and entrepreneurs to say, look, for you to, accomplish what we have historically expected you to accomplish in whatever that period of time is, 12, 24 months, instead of $1 million, it's now going to cost you, $2 million. And the talent mix is going to be slightly different, but you may not necessarily get any further for the basis of that money. But if I, as an investor, am going to give you more money, I have to somehow be mindful that the dilutionary aspect of that comes into play. And so, there is a balance there. I agree with you, Geof. I mean, I think we're all going to be really thankful in the future that we didn't have the same, dare I say, mania that we've seen down south. But at the same time, I do still think that as participants here in BC, we do need to shift our mindset a little bit and understand what those use of proceeds are and support our entrepreneurs.
Well,
I think it's a really good point. And actually, I was going to turn to you, Anthony, because I wanted to ask you, and there's two elements that we've just been talking about that I think where you sit in this ecosystem, you can provide some great insight. I think one of them is around getting, going backwards a bit to this convergence of science coming together with, computational drug discovery is, two fields coming together, which on the one hand is super exciting, as we're all saying, and we all believe a unique strength of BC. But as you're talking to, people that were typically investing in drug discovery that might have been investing in people that were in labs, and now it's, to Jason's point, a different skill set. It's a bit of a different business model, but it's also a bit of a different challenge as you're trying to scale your company, as you look at what can I use my funds for, and how expensive is the talent, and where am I going to find it?
I may have missed part of the question in there.
It's really around, did you have a different experience being your type of company, raising funds and needing to demonstrate how these funds were going to be used in a manner that might have been untraditional, because you're this science coming together? And then secondly, the pressure on talent.
Yeah. I guess the first part of it is, did we expect a completely different experience? For sure. If you look at some of the other companies who are launching, you see a couple out there that are raising $50 million to get launched. And, we're not in that space. We figured we could get away with about $1 million, maybe $1.5 million in that range. We said, that's what we'll go ask for a first round. We call it a pre-seed because it's not even a seed round for a lot of these companies who in the wet lab would be raising upwards of $50 to $100 million to get their first round out the door. So for sure, the technology gives you, it's sort of cutting a double-edged sword, right? You have the opportunity to raise less funds to get yourself bootstrapped and up, but at the same time, you're also now trying to work on the bootstrapping side, and you have a lot less funds that you can go crazy with in the beginning. And of course, that really speaks to the talent you can bring in. One of our first things that we tried to do is bring in a couple of Americans to come work for us, and they all asked for roughly 2 to 3 times the salary that a Canadian would accept for the same position. And that puts everybody in a really awkward position. We'd like to hire the best talent to make sure that our company grows the best we can, but we can't afford it because we're not raising these huge amounts to do it. So it's exactly what we were talking about. If the valuations are lower, you have less access to the world talent. And in the end, we had to come back and say, look, we're a Canadian company. We'll do this the Canadian way. We'll hire Canadians and we'll focus on that side of it. And we just don't look to hire Americans at this point because we just can't access that talent pool. Would we do something completely different to get there? Possibly, but that again would require us to go off and look for a frothy valuation. And that was never our point either. We didn't want to do that. And I was also not advocating for frothy valuations. I'm just saying that given a company in Vancouver and a company in San Francisco, the company in San Francisco is going to launch out the door with 3 to 4 million, and the Canadian company is going to launch with 1 million. And that just changes the access to the talent pool, who you're working with, and how big of that network you can access in the beginning. So there's differences. We're a Canadian company. We'll follow the Canadian pathway. And being in the space where you're working on both the computer side and the biology side, we have to focus on the stuff that's tractable. And for what we've raised, the biology side isn't going to be tractable. We can't go into the lab and do that. So we'll be looking for partners, and we have fantastic access to partners in BC. And hopefully some of those will carry the day, and we'll figure our way to market.
Mm-hmm. Geof, you were going to add something to that.
Yes, I was just going to say that the thing that keeps me awake at night is not what's going on in the broader market or where the next fund is going to come from. What keeps me awake at night is Amazon or Microsoft coming and talking to my chief developer and saying, we'll triple your salary and give you 10 weeks holiday, and why don't you come and work for us? That's the scariest thing going on in our market right now, is the disruptive pay scales that some of the big players are offering. Now, the good news is that I've talked to numerous software dev guys who've gone and taken that big salary for a couple of years and then said, oh my God, how soon can I go back to a lower salary and do something meaningful? So, I hope it's a short-term thing, but it is a huge threat to startups in particular, because they can, one offer like that can eviscerate a startup, take the key people out, and you're done. So that's what scares me more than the market situation.
I think that Jason's put a comment in the chat, but that brings us back to almost the beginning of this conversation, which is around how do you capitalize these startups appropriately? Because on the one hand, we've talked about frothy valuations. On the other hand, we're also talking about, especially organizations like Anthony's, the cost of doing business is a little bit different. The cost of that startup path is a little bit different. And obviously the key asset is, there's IP, but they're the people, and the people that are doing this work. And so I guess, Anthony, I would have a question, because you were talking about not being able to hire Americans and hiring Canadians, and the differential of how much money you would have gone to raise and how many what you would have ended up paying these people. And we'll figure out how to end this on a more positive note. But I'm interested, what would you say the impact of that was for you? Has it significantly changed your ability to, has it slowed the pace down? What sacrifices did you have to make by deciding to say, I'm staying in Canada, I'm staying with this valuation, and I'm now going to hire Canadians?
It was sort of a learning experience for us, because in the beginning, it wasn't really obvious how that would all play out. But we had a couple of positions posted last fall. And once we had the first part of our fund in, we tried to hire, and it took much, much longer to find people. The people we found are fantastic, mostly Canadians, and most of them came in wanting to be here because of the science. So I can't stress enough about how happy I am to work with the people I'm working with. They're fantastic. They're focused on what we're doing. They've bought into what we're doing, and they're not going to be poached by Amazon. I'm pretty sure that someone's not going to come up and offer them more money and they're going to leave. Most of them have had the opportunity to check that out and decided that's not where they want to be. Of course, really the big thing for us is delay. It's harder to find the specialists you need in Canada. They're not just sitting around in the street corner waiting for you to come over and say, hey, you're a nuclear physicist and you work on this area, come work for me because I want to hire you. We have to really take our time to do these job searches and track them down. In the States, you have roughly 10 times the population and there's 10 times as many people, which just makes it, I presume, somewhat easier to find these people that you need for this, that are specialists. And in our case, some of them took a lot longer to find than we wanted. Than we'd hoped, and that really has pushed back, I think, our MVP probably about 6 months from where we anticipated it being, had we managed to bring in those hires earlier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So as the investors in the room, Jason and Geof, putting yet another hat back on, how much are you, as you are looking at where you are investing, what are you, what, as people are raising money, how present right now is this talent scarcity that our SMEs are experiencing impact? Are you understanding that, yes, I mean, per Jason's example, maybe it was $1 million, now it's 2 because of these factors. As an investor, are you prepared and really taking that in recognizing that that's the way it is going to be right now?
Geof, do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Sure. So I mean, yes, we are. I think it's been something that I've foreseen. I think Geof has been, an ample, mentor to me. I think thinking about what we've seen in terms of, OPEX or salary inflation across the portfolio this past year. Again, I think on average, probably over 30%. And you can't look at that, and again, I think, we have just been living in a very unique, asynchronous and not, I don't want to say it sort of arbitrage situation, but we've known for a very long time that salaries in BC in particular are not representative of either the East or down South. And so, the COVID pandemic unlocked the ability for the talent that exists here to find their appropriate value. And so that means now, to Anthony's point, that if we want to, whether it's local talent or remote talent, we need to recognize and start thinking about paying market rates for that talent. And that then means that our startups need to raise appropriate amounts of capital to be able to hire that talent. I do want to say sort of 2 quick things on that aspect. I think one, I think there's obviously a corollary where, to Geof's point, we do often see talent, even if it does get poached, spin back out of the big players because it's just not exciting work. They just don't love it. Which is great, but it's also, I think, a call, for all the entrepreneurs and innovators in the room, working on their ventures, that you also need to build a compelling culture and a compelling reason for why that talent wants to come back to you. Inevitably, you're not necessarily going to be able to match one-to-one whatever that salary was, and that's okay. Not everyone needs $400,000 a year to survive, and most would be happier to take less and do something meaningful. But you need to create that culture and that environment that compels them to want to invest their time with you. And I think that is something that if you're going to double down on anything in the future, especially with talent being scarce or challenging, it's that will be a key advantage in your toolkit for recruiting talent.
That's a great segue, Jason, because I was immediately going to come up with the culture thing, just exactly as you said, that there are so many factors involved, obviously, but startups are obviously rarely going to be able to pay as much as the top payers in the market. So you have to be able to offer more than that. And that really comes down to, well, as Peter Drucker said back in like 1960, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And if you have a great culture that really is meaningful for people, they're going to be more willing to take a hit on their potential salary. Now, that's true to a certain extent, but we are talking about trying to live in Vancouver. And, it's hard enough to pay, your $4,000 a month for a little studio apartment and rent. But now the cost of everything else is going up as well. And whereas, it might have been acceptable to take a hit on your salary in the past, this is going to get more and more difficult to sustain as inflation starts eating, a larger and larger piece of people's paychecks. So it is a concern. But, I do believe, and once again, this is something that's particular about healthcare, is that it's much easier to find real meaning in what you're doing. It's one of those areas of endeavor where you can do well by doing good. And I always tell the story of a fellow who came and joined my company from Electronic Arts. And I said, why would you come to a little, 6-person startup where I can't guarantee that we have enough cash to pay you on Friday? And he said, well, at EA, I'm designing, more realistic blood splatters and some shoot 'em up game, and here I could save somebody's life. Well, say no more. I mean, he got the culture, he got the why behind what we were doing, and that was enough to motivate him to move into a high-risk startup area. Now, he did very well from it. So, I mean, in the end, no complaints. But,
that again brings back that convergence of science and technology that is so unique to our sector because of some strengths that people have been able to take complementary skills over. So as we are about to wrap up, I think we've covered a wide range of topics. We've covered, macroeconomic environment, specifically the perspectives of what's happening if you're sitting as an investor, as a SME, talking about talent, which is critically important. To bring us back to the topic and hopefully end this on a relatively positive note, we were talking about transition of convergence of technology, which I think we very aptly identified as one of our great strengths in BC, which is amazing. And so I'm going to ask each of you to have a parting thought. Anthony, if I can start with you as the convergence of technology company sitting at the table, some thoughts as you look ahead. Are you feeling optimistic? Are you, or what advice would you give to people that are attending this right now?
Advice is always difficult. I was joking earlier about Batman being at the table of the Avengers and sort of the junior partner in the room. So advice is probably pretty limited, but definitely I'm optimistic about the future. I think that BC is probably one of the best places to be. I worry about things like high rent and the competition poaching employees for sure. But at the same time, we also have a culture here that's really hard to beat. We have endless things for people to do and lots of reasons for people to want to be here. And that's what drives up the price of real estate, is because people do want to be here. So again, it's a double-edged sword, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than BC. I came back from the Bay Area to do this because I wanted to be here. I think that also reflects in the people who have joined HTuO and have moved to BC as well. So I'm super happy to be here.
That's fantastic. Jason, do you want to add any thoughts, either advice or thoughts of the future?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just sort of throw out quickly the cliche, that I think, crisis brings opportunity. We can point to all the data, around the .com or the financial crisis, that some of the best, returning and sort of household names that we, chat about today came out of those difficult times. So I think there's a lot of, and as we've talked about here, and I'll double down on, I think health remains one of the most intriguing verticals and sectors to focus on from an innovative capacity that needs, change. I think the thoughtfulness for all of us in the room, whether it's innovator or investor, is just to be mindful, of how you think about going around and building your company right now, and how do you make sure you position yourself to take advantage of the opportunities. What is the quote? Luck, favors the prepared, right? So to the degree that you can get your house in order and work with your advisors and your investors and your teams, to be positioned for those opportunities when they come up. I think we'll see a lot of positive in the future.
And Geof, you get the final word.
Yeah, so I mean, markets go up and markets come down and all sorts of things go on, but just keep your head down, focus on serving a real need, do something that's worthwhile and valuable, do a very good job of it, and you'll come through. You'll be fine.
And I think have fun.
That's a good point. Enjoy the ride.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what's fantastic about the sector. We're solving real world problems that have a need. And, there's a lot of meaning in being able to work in this sector. There's easier places to be, but I think I've spent a long time in this sector, and everyone is motivated by trying to, solve real world health problems. And Vancouver is extremely well positioned to be doing that. We've proven that to the world over the last 2 years, and we will continue to do so. And with that, thank you very much, Anthony, Jason, and Geof. It's always fun. And I'm going to turn it back to the VANTEC team.
Great, excellent. Thank you so much, Wendy, Jason, Geof, and Anthony. Give a big shout out to them. They did a wonderful job. And those of you who are just joining us, welcome to VANTEC. This is our healthcare and life science focused event. We've been operating for a couple of decades now. We've been investing in entrepreneurs since the last century. I just love saying that. 1999. To get us started, we'll just go through a few bits of information about our community. Want to give a shout out again to our fantastic panelists who really led an interesting discussion for the last hour. It's Wendy Hurlburt, Jason Robertson, Geof Auchinleck, and Anthony Fejes. You can find out more about them on the website, vantec.ca. Click on today's agenda and you can see all their contact information, but it was just fabulous. Thank you again. Okay. And my screen is frozen. There we go. All right, our mission at VANTEC since we started. Actually, since Mike Volker founded it in April 1999, that was our first VANTEC meeting where we had 3 companies presenting at 20 minutes apiece. And today we've got 14 and at various time slots, and not all 20 minutes because we'd be here for a very long time. It just shows you how much our community has grown. We're the largest angel group in BC. We've had almost 3,000 companies presenting since we were founded, and a good number of those have found funding. Talking about funding, we've got some stats. In 2020, we had 87 companies that received almost $15 million. And in 2021, we beat that with 102 companies receiving 19.2 million. Now we collect all this stats, and it's supported by NRC, IRAP, and others. And NACO uses these data. It's not just NACO, but also ACA. NACO is the Canadian professional organization, National Angel Capital Organization for the angel groups, and ACA is the American-based Angel Capital Association Both of those professional associations use our data to support and our entrepreneurial angel investment ecosystem. So if you ever get a note from us to fill out the survey, please do, because this helps us all in the long run. Our two most active funds associated with VANTEC is eFund and Woodif, and we've made some very good investments. And you'll see that we've made an investment in HTuO, which was one of our speakers, Anthony Fejes, in the last hour. Membership is grown. We have full membership at $600 per year, which gives you 11 meetings in a year with a free optional guest, pre-screening meetings, access to the investor Slack channel, recorded meetings, and company profiles via DocSend and Gus. Now, if you're a member of a partner group like Keiretsu or Angel Forum, or one of the funds like Woodif or eFund, your full membership privileges are reduced by a couple $100s. And if you can't make the meetings on the day, we do offer online membership, which you would get the recordings after the event. If we have a number of new opportunities, initiatives that we're starting in 2022. One is the investor deep dives from 3 to 4 p.m. scheduled for June 8th. The full presenters that are presenting today are encouraged to offer deep dives or one-to-one, either in person or online or both. If they choose to do it in person, we also have reserved free meeting rooms at SFU Venture Labs, which they could also use as their hub for their online one-to-one deep dives. Then following that, we will have our VANTEC Community Social. We had our first one, we tried it out last month, and thank you to all of you who experimented along with us. It was a lot of fun. We had a small but mighty group and lots of great food and drinks. So if you're interested in doing an in-person meet and meet with other fellow investors and maybe the founders who are presenting today, please do sign up for next week's Community Social. And we also have office hours. So more details on that by just going to send an email for your request to info@vantec.ca. We'd like to thank all of our annual sponsors. Some of them have been with us from the very beginning, and their support has been fabulous. Of course, SFU Venture Labs is our venue sponsor. Fasken, I give a shout out to Fasken. They've been with us since the very beginning. Also to Raymond James, Tandem, OKR, Western Pacific Trust Company, Go Recruitment, and InWest Ventures. We also have a number of community partners. We've already mentioned the two funds that are associated with VANTEC, eFund and Woodif, but we have other angel groups that are very actively working with VANTEC on various initiatives, includes the Keiretsu Forum, Rocket Builders, Go Recruitment, Tandem, Volition, Spring, and of course we're members of the two professional organizations, the US-based Angel Capital Association and the Canadian NACO, National Angel Capital Organization. And we couldn't do this without the support of the federal government, Western Economic Diversification Fund. Our today's agenda will start off with the community announcements and go right into the company presentations. We have a number of updates and previews. We actually have 10 of them. And then we also followed by 4 full presentations. And after all that, the fun doesn't stop there. We have founder and investor networking. Now with the 90-second previews and updates, we're asking the audience to vote for their favorite 90-second pitches, because these companies with the top scores are invited back for a full presentation at a future VANTEC meeting. After all the presentations, I did mention about the breakout rooms for the full presenters who will have dedicated breakout rooms. And then, of course, after this meeting, we're always looking to improve. Like I said, we've changed a lot since 1999. So the metrics and feedback from you is really helpful to us to always make this a relevant platform for investors and entrepreneurs to get together. And we do community announcements you can see on the website. We are growing. We're looking for the right talent to help us. We're looking for a community manager. So if there's more info on our website via the jobs page link on the agenda. Upcoming events, again, take a look at our website agenda, vantec.ca, click on today's date, June 1st, and you will see all these events listed for more information. Okay, so more about the networking and breakout rooms. The full presenters, the four of them will have dedicated networking and breakout rooms. We will have 2 cycles of 10 minutes each. So you will be given the opportunity to choose a first breakout room for that first 10 minutes and a second breakout room for the second 10 minutes. These will be hosted by the full presenter and their angel sponsor, and this is where you will have your Q&A. If there are any requests from the audience for extra, we do have extra rooms available. After those 2 breakout sessions, and you don't have to stay in those breakout sessions, you do have the ability to move from room to room. We'll return to the common room after those 2 cycles, and then we'll have random pairing rounds until close. And each of those random pairing will be about 5 minutes each. And those of you who were here for the random breakout networking before the presentation you would have already experienced some of that. So more of the same fun after the 2 cycles of breakout rooms dedicated to the full presenters. House rules, please mute yourself when you're not presenting, turn off phone notifications, etc. Let's give our full attention to these presenters. They've worked hard to get here. Network and make new connections, especially when we're doing the network breakout rooms. This is a time to learn more about each other and exchange your contact information. No soliciting unless you're a presenting entrepreneur yourself, and identify yourself. Just change the name of how you appear to the rest of us with your company name, or identify yourself as an investor or a community partner. Tips for entrepreneurs: network. That's pretty much the best advice that we could give you. Network during the network breakout rooms, network after you collect each other's contact information, send email updates, keep your GUS profile up to date. We share your GUS profile and your pitch with other angels in our ecosystem, both north and south of the border. VANTEC is a very active participant in the monthly Pacific Northwest investor angel group, and we know some of the companies here have been very successful in getting money both sides of the border. We have lots of ways to connect online. GUS, DocSend. We have Slack for members only, and we will be sending out feedback forms to the company. So your investors, if you don't get a chance to talk to the companies, you can always put your contact information on the company feedback forms. And of course, the investors deep dive sessions. If you're interested in those deep dives, email the full presenters directly, and they will give you the information about how to connect with them on the one-to-one deep dives. And with that, again, a review of how you can connect with us by email on the website and our social media links, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. With that, we're going to start with our first 90-second presenter, and that will be Arbutus Medical.
So good afternoon, everybody. Arbutus Medical has technology that converts DeWalt tools into sterile drills for orthopedic surgery. It's an example of what we call frugal innovation, one that's helped patients in 39 countries worldwide. Last presented to VANTEC for a seed round in 2020. And with that funding, we've executed a significant business model transformation and found product market fit. Now focused on a beachhead trauma center emergency rooms in the United States. We're addressing a pain point that ERs face treating trauma patients who need a pin placed in their leg as part of a treatment called skeletal traction. We discovered that staff are actually wasting 30 to 45 minutes per patient gathering drills and other supplies, delays that can cost large hospitals hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Our solution is a complete procedure kit for skeletal traction, which saves time for the hospital, avoiding costly treatment delays. This is a razors and blades model. So we provide our FDA cleared DeWalt drill to the hospital at no cost and sell consumables. We bundle our patented sterile drill covers into the kit, which locks the hospital into our drill. We launched last year, secured 8 customers representing $550K US per year in recurring consumables, over 70 deals in our pipeline, on pace for 2 million ARR by year end. 3-year plan is to launch more kits that we can sell to these same customers. We're raising a $1.5 million round, currently in due diligence with a new lead investor. Terms are going to be set in the next few weeks, so if you're interested in learning more, please get in touch with me. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. Excellent. With the next company, which is Amphoraxe LifeSciences.
Good. So hello, everyone. I'm in Arbutus for Amphoraxe LifeSciences. We develop direct functional replacements for antibiotics. The premise behind Amphoraxe is when we use antibiotics in large scale, like in livestock farming, we create superbugs. And the result is 6.2 million deaths in 2019, where antimicrobial resistance were the cause or a contributing factor. And when we compare that to the 6.2 million deaths due to COVID-19 or over the last 2 years, one wonders why we do not think or talk about antimicrobial resistance every day. Well, at Amphoraxe we do. At Amphoraxe we develop antimicrobial peptides to replace inaccessible or ineffective antibiotics to combat the problem of antimicrobial resistance. And our beachhead market is the poultry industry. In North America, poultry antibiotics market is for a single indication is valued at $700 million per year. In lab tests, our peptides demonstrated efficacy against common poultry pathogens, and in tests on chicken embryos, they proved to be non-toxic to the animals. And currently, they are being tested for safety for use on broiler chickens, both as injectable drugs pre-hatch and as nutritional supplements. And with a growing team and non-dilutive funding from multiple sources, we are also engaged in a manufacturing R&D project in preparation for regulatory trials. And we are currently raising $1 million over the next few months for a 2-year runway. With those funds, we will complete our technology demonstration, including large-scale commercial trials, and prepare. So in lab tests, our peptides demonstrated efficacy against common poultry pathogens. And in tests on chicken embryos, they proved to be non-toxic to the animals. And currently, they are being tested for safety for use on broiler chickens, both as injectable drugs pre-hatch and as nutritional supplements. And with a growing team and non-dilutive funding from multiple sources, we're also engaged in a manufacturing R&D project in preparation for regulatory trials. And we're currently raising $1 million over the next few months for a 2-year runway. And with those funds, we will complete our technology demonstration, including large-scale commercial trials, and prepare our technology for a co-development partnership. Thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Network Immunology.
And hello, everyone. My name is George Hoffman. I'm the co-founder and chairman of Network Immunology. We enhance the quality of lives by developing and licensing patented immunotherapeutics for both us humans and for our pets on a global scale. Now, what we've found as a team is a way to rebalance and reset a mammalian immune system. This calms the system down back to a stable, steady state long term. We've developed this technology into a globally scalable product. We call it Abstamex. Abstamex is a solution to the root cause of allergic and autoimmune inflammatory diseases. It's composed of a combination of 2 antibodies that reset the system as a whole. Okay, for some reason there's the wrong presentation. That's all right, I'll just keep going. So this therapy has attracted highly experienced and reputable biopharma executives to our team, including Dr. Anthony Murata, former CSO and founder of Auchinleck, Dr. Leslie Esford, former president and CEO of LifeSciences British Columbia, and 2 product developers of Enbrel, which is a blockbuster therapy and still generating $5 to $10 billion in annual sales. We are seeking financing partners currently to invest $750,000 to complete our next milestones towards commercialization for the application to a dog allergy product. Please reach out and request our investor information materials, and join us next Wednesday morning for a full presentation. And I would share my contact, but unfortunately, you'll have my contact via VANTEC, and I look forward to receiving an email from you for a request for our whole complete investor package. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. That was Network Immunology. And you brought up a very good point, George. People have been putting their contact information into chat. Okay, next up is Proteic Bioscience Inc. Proteic, are you there?
I am. Hello, and thank you for letting me talk to you today about Proteic and what it is we do, which is use our proprietary AI to develop novel therapeutic molecules in a platform that lets us address an even bigger question of what if. What if in tackling a $1.3 trillion pharmaceutical industry where less than a third of the known diseases have adequate treatment, rather than dealing with small molecules that may fit well, you could instead design a perfect protein fit. This protein versus small molecule approach is our differentiating factor and has let us take on the hottest of therapeutic mechanisms, such as targeted protein degradation, which as recently as this last month received billions of dollars per deal in investment. In a sentence, it involves the shuttling of misbehaving disease-causing proteins to the proteasome for degradation. In one of our current projects, Proteic has successfully designed a molecule that has achieved experimental validation in the ubiquitination of one of our targets. We've done this all with a very small team, backed by some of the best business and tech minds as advisors, and we're ready to expand with your help. Our current ask of $2 million would take all our current projects through preclinical trials, something that we're confident we'll achieve given the success from the first $1 million of that $2 million that we've already raised. And we plan later to have a larger Series A round that would drive our molecules to commercialization. Please reach out to me with any questions you have on that. I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Next up is Apricell Biotechnology.
Right now, close to 95% of new cancer drugs fail during clinical trials. Why is that? Well, the root cause of the problem is that scientists can't predict how patients will respond to a drug before it's actually administered. If they could, there wouldn't be any failures. And this is because the preclinical models they use do not accurately depict human biology. At Apricell, we've developed a predictive tool for recreating cancer in the lab as what are called tumoroids. These are essentially mini tumors that recreate cancer in a truly patient-mimicking way. The magic of our device is that it is an all-in-one platform that accomplishes tumoroid formation, microenvironment recreation, and drug testing all in one device. Before us, these protocols occurred separately and then were later combined. Being an all-in-one platform also means lower material requirements, less time required, less variability, easier downstream analysis, and increased control over the tumor microenvironment, which is particularly important for creating more realistic models. We are seeking $175,000 for the next 18 months. The money would be for 2 things: launching our MVP and validating the platform with a few more types of cancers for testing with both chemo and immunotherapies. Thank you all for listening. I look forward to meeting you at the networking.
Thank you very much. That was Apricell. Next up is Bay Biosciences.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Kroger, the CEO of Bay Biosciences. We're a preclinical biotech, and we're developing a therapy for progressive blindness diseases. So we're here at VANTEC because we're just about to get the definitive data that will trigger a clinical fundraising round for the company. But over the next quarter, we're looking to fill our angel round. That will help us sustain the company through the next fundraise, expand the team, and move forward with our regulatory findings. So the problem we're addressing is Stargardt disease, and it's an inherited disease that causes progressive blindness beginning early in childhood. There are currently no available therapies, but we do know one thing, that the immune system becomes inappropriately activated and attacks the retina. And an effective disease or effective treatment for this disease could generate up to $1 billion in annual worldwide sales. And there's a closely related condition called dry AMD, which represents at least a 10 times bigger market. Our solution to this problem is a patented, optimized injectable anti-complement therapy that could slow and prevent progression for the lifetime of a Stargardt patient. Before moving forward with regulators and into clinical trials, we need to demonstrate the efficacy in mouse models and also in patient serum. And we've been running those experiments for about 2 years at this point, and we expect the definitive data in the next 60 to 90 days. So our team consists of serial biotech entrepreneurs, biotech experts. Chris Assel's currently CFO at Zymeworks, and we have a scientific advisory board that's very involved in our research. So we're currently raising $250,000 on the same terms as our original investors. And please contact me to discuss. I'd be happy to share and have additional meetings anytime.
Thank you very much. Next up is 4M Biotech.
So most wounds heal on their own. However, here are the top 3 things you should know about the ones that do not heal. 1, they're a lot more common than you may think. 2, they're a lot more expensive than you may think. And 3, the main reason for concern is infection. In fact, wound infection is so concerning that patients need to be visited by a clinician every single day for their wounds to be checked. Can you imagine how hard that is for patients and how time-consuming for clinicians? Hi, my name is Shapur, and I am the CEO of 4M Biotech, where we have worked very hard in the past 4 years with an amazing team to create the perfect solution. Gel derm is a smart dressing that changes color in response to infection. It continuously monitors the wound for infection, so patients don't have to undergo constant wound checks. We are currently raising $1 million in 2 tranches. With an advanced wound dressing market that's valued at $13 billion and our licensing business model that allows a global reach, there is a lot of room for us to grow. So please reach out to me and ask about the interesting conversations I've had with all these big names at the bottom, as well as any other question that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is IUVOX.
Okay, so hi, my name is Michelle Delao. I'm a co-founder and the CEO of IUVOX, the future of air disinfection. Dentistry is a field that faces the greatest risk of disease and infection, given that dental healthcare workers are constantly exposed to malignant pathogens such as bacteria and viruses, and can't safely social distance. This leads to high levels of anxiety, work stress, and even burnout. That's why we're building a solution that will give dental professionals the peace of mind by cutting down on ineffective, laborious, and obtrusive disinfecting methods. Let me present to you the next evolution of seamless air disinfection technology, BioWare Dental, a dual device air disinfection system specific to dental offices. It uses novel far UVC technology with artificial intelligence to safely and quickly disinfect aerosolized particles during routine dental procedures. We have developed a prototype for the dental light attachment and the sealing device. We are also filing a provisional patent to protect our smart control system. With 1.6 million dentists around the globe, we have a market opportunity of $16.8 billion in dentistry alone. We are raising $500,000 that will take us from starting developing our MVP up to getting ready to start beta testing. With your help, we will give dental professionals the peace of mind they need by cutting down on ineffective, laborious, and obtrusive disinfecting methods. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. And feel free to reach out to me as well.
All right, thank you very much. All these entrepreneurs have put their contact information in chat, so take a look at that. And we have Proton Intelligence up next. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, hi, my name is Francis Steiner. I'm one of the co-founders of Proton Intelligence. We're building the world's first wearable continuous potassium monitor. You're probably wondering why that matters. Well, potassium controls every single heartbeat, and your kidneys control potassium. Oh. Oops, so this is, sorry, got the wrong slide. There we go. So when you have CKD, chronic kidney disease, diabetes, or high blood pressure, they damage your kidneys and you're at risk of crashing to dialysis, having a heart attack and dying. There are over 550,000 people in the US on dialysis alone. This costs $55 billion a year, and $25 billion of that is for 2 to 3 hospital visits. And some of these hospital visits would be unnecessary if you had potassium was visible. By monitoring people at risk, we can provide clinically relevant data to medical professionals and patients, which allow them to take drugs, dialysis, and diet, changing the disease trajectory while keeping people out of hospitals and living a better life. We can leverage the existing changes to the Medicare Advantage plans, which will open up a $2 to $3 billion market alone, just for moving one visit. We're looking at raising, $2 to $3 billion. Looking at raise $2 million, and so far we've raised $800,000 in soft commits. We're going to the CDL Super Session as a featured company from Vancouver, and we just finished at IndieBio. For me, it's personal. My wife has high blood pressure. Hope you can join us in saving lives and changing the course of kidney and heart disease. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was our final 90-second pitch. We missed out Claris because I was told by Geof Auchinleck that he's doing a big deal, and he's going back and forth with lawyers as we speak. So we have very busy entrepreneurs, and I really thank the entrepreneurs who pitched today. Take a look at your chat function. You will see a link where you can vote for your favorite 90-second pitch. The companies with the top scores will be invited to pre-screen in front of VANTEC panelists who will choose the full presentations. And of course, that's what's coming up next. We're having 4 full presenters today. They too had gone through the 90-second pitch and were upvoted by you, the VANTEC audience. And now they will do their first, they will do their full presentation. The first full presentation is VoxCell BioInnovation. So VoxCell has presented to us before, 90 seconds, and they're coming back with some good progress. And I'm going to ask their angel sponsor, Nina Volani, to introduce VoxCell. Nina?
Okay, so VoxCell is in the business of 3D bioprinting, and they have a unique capability to create tissue models with very high accuracy. And they very accurately resembles the tissue of interest. And the tissues are quite unique because they have vasculature and that too with a very high accuracy. And they are, over the years, they have been, the 3D bioprinting has increased adoption as a research tool. And now it's getting attention in the drug discovery and development field. However, I would say that the VoxCell differentiates itself from many of these bioprinting companies in so many unique ways. And they already have a prototype printer, need a few improvements to accelerate to a fully functional bioprinter. As Geof says, for investment purposes, you want to look at companies that are ready to go very close to commercialization, and that's what's going to gain a lot of attention from the investors. So VoxCell fits that bill. And at eFund, we performed due diligence and looked into the market validation of this is really, unique. And we found that they are in a position to very in position to enter the market, because with the recent introduction of FDA Modernization Act, where they want to use less animals, and because animals don't present a very good model when it comes to looking at drug pre-screening of drugs. Many drugs fail as they go through that. So VoxCell offers a different offers something additional to that. And as also Jason said, that we still have so many health problems, health issue problems, where we need help in the other sector, in the health sector. And one of them is drug development, and especially in the preclinical way. So VoxCell's there to solve that. And it's got, there's a shift happening with the FDA Modernization Act, where they are accepting more and more of the bioprinting tissues as a pre-screening tool. And I would say that VoxCell is poised to be, that one of those companies, and they're in the right time. It's the time is really right for VoxCell, and so that's what interested us as at the eFund to be the lead investors in this company. So without much time for me, I'm going to introduce Dr. Carolina Valente of VoxCell, who's the CEO. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina, for the kind words. So I'm here to talk to you today about human-like cancer tissue models. As Nina mentioned, the problem is still how drugs are being tested. So most of oncology drugs, they actually fail to get to the market. We have a failure rate that is higher than 95%. And this is highly associated to how these drugs are tested. They are tested in very simplistic platforms in the lab, and that results in a lot of mismatching results when tested in animals and in people. So what we need at this point is a more human-like, a more reliable platform to test these drugs. And a platform that has the potential to even reduce the number of animal models. And that's exactly what VoxCell is doing. I like to refer to our tissue models almost as artificial biopsy samples. And as you can see in this video, we are creating these fully vascularized human-like cancer tissue models. And we are doing that combining our proprietary bioprinter, our vascularization software, and our proprietary bioinks. And our tissue models will be applied to the drug development process. And they offer a lot of benefits since they have blood vessels. The drugs can then be injected through these blood vessels and distributing throughout the body, similar to what happens inside of the human body. What our tissues will be able to do is identify inviable candidates earlier in the drug development process, and also to have the potential to reduce the number of animal models used during preclinical testing, and of course, saving time. So in terms of where we fit in the drug development process is in the preclinical testing, which multiple tests are done in very simplistic platforms, and they can be done on our tissue models, especially now with the endorsement of the FDA Modernization Act. And on top of it, as a screening tool, we do not require FDA approval. We'll be putting our tissue models on the market this year, starting with our breast cancer tissue models, and also putting our bioinks, that is our printer's cartridge, on the market in August this year. The beauty of our bioinks is we made them compatible with any other bioprinter on the market. But of course, people will not be able to print the same complexity of the tissues that we are creating, since they don't have access to our printer or our software. Our technology is not restricted to cancer. We actually can change our bioink, as we are already doing, and mimic different kinds of diseases. So we already have in the pipeline to go towards Alzheimer's disease in 2024. However, right now, we are really focused on the market, on the oncology market in the drug screening and in vitro diagnostic. And our customer segments are academia, research centers, CROs, and pharma. Our focus will be, of course, the CROs and pharma later on, but we have been speaking with all of them. And we have already spoken with multiple pharmaceutical companies, including 7 meetings with Johnson & Johnson. And we know exactly what they want to see in terms of quantitative data. And we are performing our validation studies right now over the summer to go back to them in the fall with the data they want to see. Our revenue projections based on 70% margin on our tissue models and 90% margin on our bioinks. In terms of the tissue models, the competition's other preclinical testing techniques out there. However, no one displays the complexity that we are creating, including the complex vasculature. So VoxCell is really marketing ourselves as a tissue engineering company, providing that reliable platform for drug testing. I am the CEO and CSO, and I have a background in tissue engineering and bioprinting. Tim is the director of engineering with 10 years of experience in medical device. And Dr. Kevin Voss, that is here today with me, has a background in preclinical testing and is leading our validation studies. VoxCell is a highly technical team, and to balance that, we have a very strong group of advisors, including Alvin Chubbs in the finance and Georgina Riziki as a strategy advisor, and our amazing board members as Dr. Nina Villani here, and also new board member Robert Levac with an extremely complex background in business. We have IPs provisionals on our bioinks and more coming this summer, and also on the tissue models. And our software is right now kept as a trade secret, and hardware, we are upgrading our hardware to accelerate our printing speed. We are currently fundraising, and we are seeking $1 million at a $3 million pre-money valuation. eFund is our lead investor, and we have 75% of that round committed, and we plan on closing this round this month. And the money will be used to accelerate our printing speeds to get to 1,000 tissue models per month, able to generate $4 million of revenue per printer, and also finalize our validation studies, go towards IP and operations and our team. Thank you very much for all your time today.
Thank you very much. Everybody take a look in chat. You will see a link to a company feedback form. All these companies today really would appreciate your feedback, because often VANTEC is one of the many stops that they make as they do their capital round. And I'm sure that you all have burning questions to ask Dr. Valenti about VoxCell. So save them up, store them up, and unleash them when it's the network breakout rooms after all the full presentations are done. So the next full presentation is PrecisionOS, and I'd like to call up Jeffrey Hansen to introduce PrecisionOS. Jeffrey.
Thank you, Thelza. I'm happy to introduce PrecisionOS. It's a promising company that's been on my radar rocket list for a number of years. In the last 2 years, they've really accelerated, demonstrating a proven value proposition, achieving traction and leadership. This company combines virtual reality training and medical device domains in an impactful way. You may have attended my metaverse talk earlier in the year, and sometimes these emerging tech areas are exciting, but sometimes intimidating for angel investors. In other words, they're cool, but difficult. Here's why this venture is not intimidating or difficult. They offer a must-have proposition for the medical device value chain. They are disruptive with a very large measurable impact. The Series A they are raising has been validated by a knowledgeable lead investor and has other knowledgeable investors representing the majority of the round they're trying to raise. This raise will accelerate adoption to capture the market opportunity. So I'm very pleased to introduce this cool company and the founder, Danny, to pitch this opportunity.
Thank you, Geoff. And thank you, Thelza, for this opportunity. So I'll get started. What I want to present to everybody is a breakthrough VR simulation metaverse. So why I started the company with my co-founders as a surgeon is because we know this to be true around the world, is that patients suffer at the hands of the inexperienced. And here's an example of a 12-year-old boy who suffered at the hands of a surgeon who's been in practice for 25 years, who underwent surgery, 2 surgeries, was exposed to 200 x-rays, and the surgeon put the implant in the wrong place. The reason this happened was not malicious. It's because we do not have a time or cost efficient model for hands-on learning. The three models that are available to us are provided by the med device companies on the left, which require significant cost and expense to them. In the middle is the simulators, which are not scalable. They cost about $200,000 each. And on the right is when we practice on our patients, where we learn the most. So what we've done is we've combined all of that into a data-driven VR software platform that provides hands-on simulation that's available anytime, anywhere. And what's unique about us is we've taken the needs of the surgical specialties, which some of our competitors do in isolation. We've also taken the needs of the medical device companies, which our direct competitors do in isolation, and we've combined the two. And what's unique about that is we get significant data insights, which add additional value to our customers and partners. And this is what it looks like. So our software works on off-the-shelf hardware. And here's an example, a 50-second video of what is currently done, where implants are flown in, cadavers are purchased, learners and educators are flown in for this one-time session with those implants in a non-contextual, normal way. We've digitized this entire environment in a virtual space with our team to provide not only hands-on experience, but contextual learning with the medical device products, but also then capturing data on how individual people are performing, shown here. So here's an example of a trainee, or who's now a surgeon, making a mistake on purpose and providing real-time data on their performance in this virtual space. With our team, we've made this hyper-realistic to drive both empathy and realism. And our team is able to execute on this. And we've covered all aspects of orthopedics and have expanded beyond that into general surgery and imaging, which I'll share shortly. So our software does work, as evidenced by the 2 randomized controlled trials published in high impact factor journals. Not only do you learn faster, you're technically superior when compared to non-VR learners in a blinded fashion. And on the right, you make 95% less mistakes when you learn this way. And we've shown this in a real example. That same case that I showed you earlier was actually then transferred to the Children's Hospital, where a trainee in practice actually practiced in our system 4 times and then did the case by himself with 10 times less radiation in a single surgery. So the experience to execute is really important here. My background as a surgeon is I'm a customer of our product. So I speak to the value proposition we bring to me as a surgeon, which is valuable to the medical device company. That is brought to life by my 2 co-founders who come from game development, 25 years each. And we have a team around that which helps support sales from Laura, financially, as well as product, and our PR, which is an ex-Microsoft candidate, and our business advisors from both Silicon Valley and from Boston. We built a strong tech team around this, which is primarily based in Vancouver, which we benefit from in the ecosystem. And around that, we built a large medical and scientific advisory board, which have the world's expert in simulation and haptics, as well as in instructional design. These are our current medical device partners. A lot of them are top 10 in the world, and they use our product for surgeon education, sales training, sales enablement, and marketing new products. The way our business works is we bring their products into our metaverse for a customization fee. Each sales rep within the medical device companies will then license our software at $49 per year. If we were to capture 100% of our existing customers, that's 144 million of recurring revenue. Our software has been also adopted by these paying customers, universities around the world, which are using it to train their own trainees, which act as a strong pull strategy for other medical device companies to be on the platform. The market size here that we're trying to capture by 2026 is $7 billion. That includes simulation, medical device education, as well as preoperative software. Our current ARR is 1.6 million as of last month. We have 300 active subscriptions, 20,000 sessions. We've trained over 5,000 healthcare providers with no flights and no hotels. And why is this important? Because we have a significant greenhouse impact where we actually can reduce the carbon footprint. So we're raising $12 million to invest in further R&D to operationalize development and expand beyond ortho, general surgery, and imaging into urology and gynecology, invest sales and marketing to drive existing subscriptions. $2 million have been raised by venture debt. We have a $6 million commitment, both from a lead investor as well as a soft commitment. So what's available for this round is $4 million, and we'll be finalizing the term sheet with our lead investor over the next week or 2. So timing is everything. We're a trusted developer with Meta, and we have the people that understand this market really, really well. Our product has a patented aspect to it, which has been cleared both by FDA and Health Canada. We have traction in all customer segments, and really what we're addressing here is a triple bottom line approach with people, profit, and the planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation. Everyone, take a look at your chat. You will see the link to give feedback to PrecisionOS. Like I said before, the feedback is really important to these companies as they raise their capital round. And if you are interested with more questions, please do visit their breakout room. You'll have 2 10-minute chances to quiz PrecisionOS about their deal. Next up is Zennea Tech. And Jason, could you please tell us why we should all pay attention to Zennea Tech?
Well, I don't think I need to give you any reason. I think you'll understand when you hear from Rachel, but I have the immense privilege and pleasure of introducing Rachel and Zennea Technologies. Myself personally and Nimbus have been investors for a couple of years now, and I've also had that immense privilege to work with Rachel closely on the board. So Zennea, really, I think coming back to this concept of convergence today is really closing the gap between leveraging a unique software, a unique hardware solution with software to be able to treat those with mild OSA or obstructive sleep apnea, which to date remains an untreated issue and condition that severely affects many people as they progress through into more severe, moderate, severe OSA. So the company has worked incredibly hard, completing an initial clinical trial and working through up and coming approvals with both Health Canada and the FDA. I think I'll let Rachel speak about the business, but I really want to highlight her capability and capacity as a leader and as a CEO. The company and under her stewardship has gone through not only the HACS Accelerator program, but the Google Accelerator for Women, as well as entrepreneurship at UBC, and is a resident, I think, or part of the Hatch program there now. So just really commendable and has worked really hard to bring on some seasoned executives alongside. So I think you'll hear the maturity of this company, and I hope you enjoy.
Oh, thank you, Jason. I really appreciate it. Can you all see my screen? Perfect. Well, thanks, Jason, again for the kind introduction. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO here. And I guess I'll just get started then. So Zennea, we're a healthcare company that aims to be the provider for treatments and management of sleep conditions. We're starting with the 1 in 10 adults that have mild obstructive sleep apnea with our patient-friendly wearable system that addresses the underlying cause for patients whose alternatives range from untested consumer goods to bulky restrictive devices. So everyone's familiar with the sound of snoring, but you might not know is that choking, gasping sound between snores is actually a symptom of a condition called obstructive sleep apnea, where you repeatedly stop and restart breathing during sleep. Not only does it disrupt your sleep and leave you feeling tired in the morning, taking hours to wake up, it increases your chance for developing heart disease or diabetes. For those that have mild OSA, there is no standard of care. Zennea's segmented market opportunity is $22 billion when looking at only the 20% of people that have a diagnosis. This massive underserved patient group of mild OSA is demanding a treatment from their doctor. So the Zen system uses neurostimulation to address the underlying cause. In other words, we use targeted neurostimulation to keep the tongue active while you sleep, where your tongue over relaxing is one of the main causes of snoring or mild OSA. And our patent-pending wearable system consists of a discrete wearable device to deliver the therapy, a consumable adhesive in multiple sizes, a mobile app, and a healthcare portal. So we deliver a treatment for the patient while keeping the physician engaged with our digital health approach. Our web portal and mobile app deliver analytics on sleep health and provide management tools to the clinics for things such as monitoring compliance, impact, and billing. Oops. So we completed a small proof of concept study to demonstrate that it works for treating snoring, mild OSA, and is safe. And with that, we confirmed our regulatory and clinical pathways for both Health Canada and the FDA. So the continuous positive airway pressure device, or otherwise known as the CPAP, is the standard of care for moderate to severe OSA. This product uses positive airway pressure to add structure to the airway. However, it's not recommended for treating mild because it tends to be more disruptive than alleviating the symptoms. So even though a CPAP is bulky and restrictive, part of their long-term success is their ability to treat the condition and manage the patient outcomes. So the white space in the market is for a discrete, connected solution to treat mild OSA that allows for patients to sleep in any position. The rest of the technology, they're either unregulated snoring aids that a physician won't prescribe or endorse, or they have such limited to complex workflows that it does not incentivize them to prescribe it. So the overall business model is a monthly subscription where we include the device, adhesive replenishment, and software access into a monthly fee based on time commitment. So we act as the provider to the clinics to set them up with our software and then provide them with inventory. We then supply the adhesives directly to the customers with active subscriptions. And we expect to be able to receive health insurance coverage for the Zen system. So selling through the US is a $1.5 billion opportunity for just American sleep clinics. They regularly diagnose mild OSA patients in their clinics, and they want an easy to reach for solution that allows for them to follow up with these patients for their lifetime condition. And sleep businesses believe the Zen system will be that option. So we're going to launch in Canada next year, and we have clinics engaging with us for partner pilots and active sales channels. We're setting up these partner pilots or mini studies under IRB to collect market and user data, all while developing these relationships to act as future sales channels. And we've signed 4 letters of intent for these partner pilots. So our senior management team, they've been involved in bringing multiple Class 2 and 3 medical devices to market. Our board of directors is strong with decades of experience in the medical device, healthcare, and life sciences industry. Our advising physicians, they're experienced sleep specialists, practicing clinicians, and they are experienced in running clinical studies for novel sleep products. So we're gaining commercial traction by signing 4 LOIs for partner pilots. We've confirmed our clinical and regulatory pathways. We've completed our feasibility study, and we know how we're going to sell the Zen system. And we've done all of this on just $2 million US of dilutive funding. So we're planning to receive Health Canada approval by August of next year. In parallel, we're going to set up our FDA study for US sales in 2025. So our Canadian approach allows us to demonstrate demand and prepare to enter other markets, all while generating some early revenue. So we're raising for initial Canadian sales, partner pilots with sleep clinics, and to prepare for FDA study. This $3 million US round, it's structured to be EBC tax credit friendly, and we've closed on over half, and we're looking for investors to join us. So if you're interested in learning more, looking forward to seeing you in our breakout room.
Thank you very much. That was Zennea Technologies. Take a look in the chat. You will see a link where you will give feedback directly to the company. These are really important. I've said that before, and I'll keep saying it. It's very important for the companies to receive your feedback, and all your questions, you can put them on the feedback form and or hold them for the network breakout rooms, which will follow after these full presentations. Our final full presentation is Implant Genius, and I'm going to call upon their sponsor, Raymond Toe, to give a few words about why we should be paying special attention to Implant Genius.
Okay, thank you, Falzell. Some of us in the audience may not know this reference. Do you guys remember Victor Khayyam of Remington? What was his catchphrase? I like this product so much, I bought the company. I'm not saying I'm going to buy Implant Genius as an exit, but what they do surprised me because I have 3 implants in my teeth. And a lot of us don't like to go to the dentist. A lot of dentists may not be equipped to actually do these implants. So when I was connected to Dr. Kevin, I call him Dr. Kevin. Dr. Kevin is a renowned expert in this field. He's a practicing dental oral surgeon as well as doing a lot of public speaking. I think right now he's at a conference, possibly closing a deal with a major partner. So Implant Genius is providing the dentist with the capability and the ease, I think, of doing this type of service. They are building a 2-sided marketplace as well, but sequentially, we want to sort of first build out the dental practice business, and as well as he'll show you the app on the consumer side. So there's a lot of exciting things, lots of balls in the air, And there's still lots of work to be done, but I think the business model and the opportunity is really good. So over to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Can you hear me, guys? Very good. Thank you so much. Raymond, thank you very much for the introduction. I started Implant Genius in 2018 when I was having a very bad day, when I was seeing patients getting disfigured with dental implants being put in really wrong positions. Patients were having issues with nerve damage. They had paid a lot of money to be able to function and enjoy foods. And quite frankly, they were getting disfigured. Some patients wanted to get their smile back for their self-esteem, and they were devastated. And so in that moment, I decided that my contribution to dentistry will be that every implant being placed will go in the correct place, in the correct position, and the patient's able to enjoy it. This company has grown from the kitchen of my practice at the corner of Broad and Broadway to now having our state-of-the-art lab in Burnaby, and has grown across Canada by hiring multiple specialists who've done these types of procedures, but also utilizing our artificial intelligence technology to be able to calculate exactly the patient's smile. And some of the largest labs, dental labs in Canada, for example, CamCube here in Quebec, which I'm Montreal actually, which I'm calling you from, are our clients and have signed memoranda of understanding, and Shaw Labs, the largest lab in Canada. And now we're expanding into the United States, and we are into 2 test markets in Texas and Michigan, partnering with the largest dental implant company in the world, Nobel Biocare. In having done thousands of these types of implant planning cases, we've come to the realization that one of the biggest problems in dentistry is a lack of proper record taking amongst dentists. And this is a big problem because not only they're unable to correctly perform a proper diagnosis and a treatment plan, but when they're communicating with colleagues, when they're communicating with other specialists, then also communicating with dental laboratories and implant planning companies, we are unable to provide the correct diagnosis for them. This is a big deal and a big problem because when the record comes in and the face is like this, if the bone is cut in a cant and the implants go in the wrong position, that patient gets disfigured and has quite a long-term problem. And so what our company has been able to do is create an AI app that will take into consideration specifically what the patient's needs are, and creates a digital workflow for the assistants, for the doctors to say, these are the records that you require to take. And when they're taking those type of records, if the head is tilted, then the computer will tell the patient to stand up straight, and then the photo is taken. If the patient is not smiling, then the computer will recognize that and make sure that they are smiling. This app takes into consideration age. It takes into consideration gender. It takes into consideration ethnicity in designing that perfect smile for that patient. And when that the smile is designed, it allows us to finally arrange the teeth and be able to put those implants in their most ideal position to create that beautiful smile for the patient. And because of this, we've been able to grow quite rapidly. The app not only automates this process, it has allowed us to reduce the time for planning of these cases. It has allowed us to be able to expand the market with the specialists and reduce the error rate in the process. But this is not just a B2B play. This we envision this app being in the hands of every person out there. 1 in 3 adults are not happy with their smile. And if they are able to take these photos and see the smile of their dreams, then they would be able to then book an appointment to see the dentist that can actually deliver this for them. We have a big job ahead of us, and we realize that we are in our company is in its infancy. And so what we've decided to do is to master what we are good at, to gain market share, become dominant in our own industry, make the B2B play, and then move to the B2C side. We have a group of experts. Amir Taba is our AI specialist and has won 40 under 40. We also have a bullpen full of advisors such as Barry Allen, who have built marketplaces. I wouldn't bore you with our financials, but we are growing at quite a rapid rate, and we're very excited about that. We are looking for a seed round to close out our seed round. We've raised already 600,000. We would like to raise another 400,000 in a safe, and will get us to the Series A round. I thank you for your time, and look forward to speaking with you.
Thank you very much. That was Implant Genius. Again, everyone, take a look in the chat function. You will see a link to give feedback to Implant Genius. And scroll up, you'll see the link to other companies to give your feedback. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's VANTEC meeting, which is focused on investing in life sciences and health tech. We had a really great session to kick things off with Wendy Hurlburt of Life Science BC, Jason Robertson of Nimbus Synergies, Geof Auchinleck of Claris Healthcare, and Anthony Fejes of HTuO Biosciences. And we really appreciate that you stayed on to listen to some great presentations from 14 companies in this space that really personified the convergence of technologies, software, new materials with life sciences into some really cool life sciences and health tech companies. Please remember to come back next week for our social. All the companies will be present, and hopefully you'll be too. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Thank our VANTEC team as well. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.